Mm. Yeah. Okay. Hi, everyone. This is Shannon Port, and I welcome you to the Goddess Report. It is September 20th, or it's actually September 21st, and we're going live today. I have a lot to talk to you about. And oh, good. Okay. I just got the email that we're live. And let's see, I'll give you a little bit of an idea of where we're going to go today. So I titled this The Goddess Report, Equinox Edition, and we're going to talk about the state of the world. And so if you're new to this stream, my name is Shannon Port. I'm from the Art of the Feminine platform, the Art of the Feminine podcast. And if you'd like to find me on social media, I'm at Art of the Feminine on Instagram as well as Facebook. We work with the Divine Feminine wisdom, and we also work with deep, deep archetypal wisdom. I work with the Sylvianic codes from Divine Feminine Astrology, but we also just work with a really deep well and synthesis of information that is really meant to stimulate our creativity and awaken our heart center so that we're able to navigate these times with grace and with power and with as much love as we can. So that being said, I've been away. I haven't been very active over the past few months, and that's because I've been in really, really a deep and profound state in my work of writing and working and just being in communion with the source of this stream so that I'm able to do the best I can do in this work to have an understanding of how we're balancing humanity right now. Humanity is going through a deep, deep initiation. The planet is going through a deep initiation, and the initiation is to awaken us. It's just so that we can come into a higher level of understanding of what it means to be a human being. So today in this podcast, I'm going to talk about some of the esoteric work that I work with in light body yoga. We're going to work with some of the upper chakras and the lower chakras, which balance in the heart. And when we're talking about the chakras, we're talking about levels of consciousness. So I know the chakras can be seen as being something that's kind of new age or far out there or woo woo. They're yogic in nature, but they're really about our levels of consciousness, and we'll look at the animal levels of consciousness, which all human beings contained, as well as some of the higher levels of wisdom, and why at this time what we're doing is we're working on balancing them in the heart. And if anybody's on live and you want to say something in the chat, you can let me know if you can hear me okay, or I'd love to hear where you're tuning in from. It's been a while and it's so good to be here. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the metaphysical aspect of the human being and our initiation and awakening. We're going to talk about world events. We're going to look at the pandemic. We're going to look at the racial unrest. Hi, Lucy. Nice to see you. And the polarization of human consciousness, the power of the word and how it's being used in media very much falls under the goddess and her domain. And everything that's out there right now. I made a list of things. I'm going to do this a little bit different. I'm going to read what I wrote. I have some writing, some goddess report writing, and then we're going to look at the demonization of each side, the demonization of conspiracy theorists. And I have a lot to say about that. I look forward to going into that a bit. The demonizing of gurus and spiritual teachers, that's happening a lot right now. And I say demonizing, but I mean it, well, that's what I mean. We're going to talk about why at this time demonizing isn't really the best way to go about bringing us together, because we all have parts, we all have pieces of information, and we need each other right now. The right needs the left in a very, very big way. So good to see that some people on today. Oh, I've missed being here. I have a lot to share. Let me just finish this and then I'll tell you where I've been. So, and I'm also going to talk about a powerful interview I saw and so much more. Okay, so I've had so much material that has been coming into the Art of the Feminine platform that's really meant to help guide us through. And again, this is only one stream of wisdom. I don't pretend that this wisdom is right for everybody, but I know it serves a certain group that are resonant with it. And so that is who I'm speaking to. I don't claim on this platform, when I talk about the goddess and the goddess report, to have the answer. There's many different people working with this type of wisdom, and you have to find the voice that really speaks to you and activates your heart. We all have a powerful part to play at this time on the planet. And so it's important that rather than defining ourselves by what we're not, we start to define ourselves by what we are. That way, we're inclusive and everybody can bring what they have to offer to the table. It's in this whole culture of social media and the internet, we started to become trolls of each other and to hate on each other rather than to say, this isn't for me, I'll find what works. Instead, if something doesn't work for us, we're meant to just bless it and move on, unless we have a serious, unless it triggers us in a way that really, really calls us to use our voice against it. But that's different. And so I want to say that the work coming through here is it's a part of the answer, and that's what it's meant to be. All right, so we're going to look at the astrological transits that are huge right now. We're going to talk about AI and technology, and also some of the sexual degeneration that's happening. We're going to talk about it from as elevated as a place as we can, as elevated of a place as we can, but we're going to look at some of the serious programming that's entering onto the collective platform. And we're going to talk about the goddess Sophia and her wisdom. And so again, I welcome you, and it's really so nice to be here with you. Jay, good to see you. Lucy, Francisco, let me know where you're tuning in from. I would love to know who's here from what parts of the world as we go on. This is later than I usually am on, so I'm hoping some of my friends in Australia and New Zealand are able to make it. So here we are. Again, I wrote this today. I wrote this about an hour ago. What happened was I have so much information. This is what happened that I was going to tell you. I was having a hard time getting on to do a video because I kept thinking I had to organize it, and it was actually causing me to stall from coming on. And so what I just did was I sat down and I said, what do I need to write? What do I need to say today? And I wrote this today and was told I will just in bits and pieces bring out what I've been working on this summer. And so that being said, welcome to the Goddess and the Goddess Report. The Goddess represents our creative power and our wisdom. She is the impulse in all of us to ask good questions and to observe reality from our inner knowing and our intuition, and to synthesize the higher knowledge of spirit with the form building capacity of matter. The goddess rules both of those realms. And so her impulse for us to ask good questions and make good observations, to honor our own intuition, is highly, highly linked to her creative power. This is important to remember as we go through the video, as we go through this live stream. So the goddess is also the form builder. She creates form. And so she synthesizes the higher wisdom to create form. But we're living in a time where that wisdom is being shut down. I can't wait to talk about it. Okay, I have to keep reading. She is the marriage of the two, of spirit and matter. She is the doorway to life. And with such power, she holds the great sword of discernment. It is her domain to wield this sword of truth so that there is a harmonious flow of divine love into creation. A harmonious flow of the divine love coming into her creation, so that souls are nurtured and looked after as they awaken and evolve their own creative power. The goddess lives in each one of us. She is our intuition and our impulse, the divine impulse to ask questions when things seem confusing or off. Off. Asking questions and having honest, fair, and real conversations is her gift. And it's her requirement in order to access the higher wisdom. The Greeks called her Sophia, which means wisdom. And this is where we get philosophy. Philosophy, as we know, governs the intellect and reason. It governs wisdom and the application of wisdom to make sense of reality. It also governs gnosis and the inner knowing. So this is Sophia. Sophia in the Western mysteries, in the Western tradition, is the name of the goddess. Very, very powerful name. And this is where we get philosophy. So the goddess is the word itself. The word with a capital W. She births the word and makes it flesh. Therefore, she knows how holy and sacred is the word. Nice to see you. How holy and sacred is the word and the power of the word. Her goal is the word of pure truth. And we'll talk about what pure truth is. The goddess rests in our hearts. Therefore, we need love and wisdom in order to be a vehicle for her depth and her pure creative power. The goddess is associated with the heart. We have to have love and wisdom in order to synthesize the above and the below and to access our own creative power. She balances the upper chakras and the lower chakras in the heart chakra, the fourth chakra, which is the seat of consciousness, the seat of human consciousness, and where we birth the divine word. Each chakra represents a level of consciousness. The first through third chakras represent the animal human being. This is the animal that is engaged in the basics of human necessity. So we need those first three chakras, but as well as the shadow side of addictions, war, control, greed, degeneration of sexuality, and the using of these kinds of energies to conquer and to take and rob from others. It's when we are in that state that we do not see each other as a soul. We see each other purely as a body, as the flesh, but also as a commodity to get what we want from another human being. Again, when we're in those lower three chakras, everything is about what can I get or how can I conquer? How can I control? A lot of our systems are based on those lower three right now, and that's just the way it is at this time. So how we can conquer and take from others. This is the world we live in as it is sinking further and further into the abyss of the lower consciousness. Not to be negative, we'll come back around to that. The world of the flesh is the world where we prize pure sex, materialism, and when I talk about sex, I want to say sex as a means to satisfy an insatiable desire that is of the flesh. Materialism, greed, war, polarity are all exaggerated in their influence on these levels. Humans lose touch with what is known by mystics as the monadic consciousness. Here, we are easily controlled by the archontic force. So when we are operating from these lower three chakras, we're cut off from higher wisdom. And so therefore, we're not really able to work with the power of the goddess. This is where we can be manipulated. This is where we're no more than kind of like hypnotized trance beings that are still very good. It doesn't mean that we don't have natural human desires when we're operating here, but we are still being led around we can be easily controlled, programmed, and manipulated at these levels because we're not necessarily in our reason, in our philosophia. We're not necessarily looking at things from intuition, which is access through the heart. And we are, even though we might be living good lives, the light is dim. It's not fully turned on yet. So the archontic force are those layers of consciousness that are absolutely out to rob us and pull us down. They show up in mythology, and they show up in art. They show up everywhere. They're showing up everywhere right now. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to say about that before I go on. When we say that the archons are the rulers, it's true, because the archons are the hook in our consciousness that keeps pulling us down and that puts a ceiling on it, so we're not able to go up and understand our true creative power and our true unity. They thrive on and live on war. They thrive on and live on sexuality that is thrust upon someone rather than cultivated from deep, deep, deep love and exploration of the goddess. And they thrive on manipulation. They thrive on controlling others and robbing others of the ability to see the wisdom. Now, this happens, it's up to each one of us to open the book of wisdom ourselves by evolving and by awakening. And it's up to each one of us to do that. But we also have work to do as we awaken to help others that are still at a level that don't have access to that yet. And so that's something that we're growing right now on this planet. Under the archons are the underworld rulers that use human soul energy to power the matrix. We've all seen the matrix. Human soul energy powers the matrix, and without human soul energy consenting to it, there is no matrix. We open up a whole nother realm of reality. And we're talking about consciousness here. So when I'm talking about other realities, we can think of other realities as in other dimensions. We can think of it as access to other creative powers. We can think of it also as access to deeper love and deeper communication. Right now, what's been robbed is this is all about communication right now. The communication happening in the world is very deceptive, and that's where we're going to go after I get through this. So they power. They're also this matrix is an AI. It's an artificial intelligence matrix that locks into the soul by tricking it into handing over all of its organic, sophionic, creative energy. We hand it over when we consent to this. Once locked into this reality, we have less space, less silence, and sovereignty to access our inner core strength. So when we plug into it, it gets noisy and it gets discordant. We're so used to that vibration and that sound that's rattling our brain, that we don't realize that we don't really enter into the realm of pure silence, which is an absolute necessity. In order to access our organic power, we have to be able to find that realm. And that more and more, the pressure of the voices pounding from the outer world are locking us out. And the more we hand that over, the more we become the fulfillment of that prophecy, where we lose our power. So what okay. We are in a trance, the hypnotic dream of the lower sensual appetite, which can be oh so good and oh so deceptive, because that lower sensual appetite makes us, it's so it's just so tempting, because it draws us in through the five senses, but then once we get in, it cuts us off from the higher reality. And so we're going to talk about how we can balance this out. Just want to say that. And then we're not able to know if there we get the pleasure, but then we get the door slammed and we get the pain. That's when we start to see addiction, depression, and all the degeneration of even our own vehicle, our own, I call it the goddess technology of our body, the high genius of our own human consciousness blended with this amazing soul energy and body that we have. Physical body starts to lose its powers. Okay. We lose, okay. Art. Art is, and this is where art of the feminine comes from. Art is a powerful tool of the goddess. This is forced. Yes, absolutely. I'm going to look down and do questions. Okay, I'm going to breeze through this and then I'm going to do questions and go into this. Art is a powerful tool of the goddess. This is huge. Art involves media, film, music. Art is what we read. Art is what we hear. Art is the images that we see. Art is anything that was created from a human mind with the intention of being seen. Now, obviously, then we have higher art. We have the art that transcends and that opens. Higher art opens the higher portals. And that's why on Art of the Feminine, the Facebook page, I work with visionary artists. Art, poetry, music all have the capability of opening up the new world for us. But the art can also be used to hold us down, very much so. This is very, very going into the esoteric wisdom. Art is a powerful tool of the goddess that exists on a spectrum and has a frequency encoded into it. All art is obviously not created equal. It's on a spectrum, and all art is allowed, but we have to have an understanding of where the consciousness it's coming from and what is being activated, because art is an activator. It's an initiator, and it has a frequency. It opens the portals of consciousness, the streams within us, and it activates them. All of the media, music, entertainment industry work with these portals. Advertising, all of them, they've figured this out this has been because when the occult wisdom started to become well known, it was immediately seized upon and used, and we've been under what's called the dark occult forces for a long time now. And this is not conspiracy. This is the way it is. I have a huge background and I'm very well read in all of it, more so than I should be. I'm on every single stream, and I know what was out there. I know how it's been used, and it's being used right now. It's the highest technology, and it's being used in a way for the dark right now, for the dark control. So they're actively encouraging and opening the lower chakras of consciousness of humanity. This is so that it can guide the human race into a new level of this matrix, of the AI matrix. It doesn't take much to see. If you are awake and truly living from wisdom that this is happening, the collective consciousness has created this platform because of our lack of ability to come together and to really love each other. So we've created it. The thing is that this can only take place when the whole collective is sinking, meaning when we're not. And the collective is rising right now, but there's also a lot of willingness to not love each other. And the polarity wars, I've talked a lot about the polarity wars, are created. Yes, absolutely. Good comments. So the polarity is created as one of the greatest tools to keep people. When people talk to each other and come together, we build creativity. I know this just in my own work. When we come together, we explode. We become dynamic creators, because when love opens up, all of a sudden we have access to new energy. It's like when you fall in love. Think about when you meet someone and you fall in love. All of the rules of all of the laws of nature shift into the higher realms. So we have the dynamic laws in matter that govern matter and space-time. But think about it. When you fall in love with somebody, you are so heightened. All of a sudden, you can walk on water. You can fly. You can do anything. And it's because that's why that feeling of falling in love, that is the same feeling as when we come together and work together. Humanity has been cut off from that. But when we work together and when we find out that we actually really love each other, we will all get that kind of an expanse. And we'll enter into what's called the cosmic law. Cosmic law is beginning to come in, and some of us are using it already and playing with it. Cosmic law is so powerful that that we're given it in small doses, because if we were to all have, we can't handle cosmic law, because when you have cosmic law, you can shift matter like that. You can change things quite easily. And so it's like handing, a loaded gun to a child. You have to make sure that the maturity and the wisdom has been awakened. So that's the goddess. Love and wisdom will open the portal so that we can all start to work with the higher law. All right. So we have to, it's up to all of us. It's like there's a lot of people wanting to take down what is out there. It's very important, but we can't lose sight of what is going to actually shift what we're seeing on the world stage. Our power is within us. And that is not a cliche. That is the truth. What happens is, though, we're pulled by technology, and we're told what to think, what to believe, what to do. You read the newspaper right now more than ever, the programs coming in saying, the violence that's being shown on the news right now. And I have some apps I'm on that I don't even know. I didn't even sign up for them. And I'm constantly getting notifications of the worst horrific violence, and they come nonstop. They come every few minutes. One beams in. That is it. We don't want to be in denial. We're not here to bypass what's really happening in the world. But at the same time, when you're bombarded with that, you lose access to silence, and you lose access to love, because you start to go into fear. It's a natural, compassionate thing to want to look at it and say, oh my God, this is terrible. This is terrible. But the thing is that these are being beamed at us from the uninitiated, the unawake, or from worse than that, the dark occult that has been using the media and technology for a long time. And it doesn't mean that everyone involved in these things is absolutely highly intelligent, intellectual, creative people with a lot of reason, a lot of goodness, a lot of divinity. But the beyond the right and left polarity that's fighting each other on this planet, there's a much more overarching power that is playing with both sides. And that's what we're looking at, right? And that's what the goddess is here to address. The goddess is going straight to that. She's ready to say, I'm here, I'm awake, my children are waking up, they're activating, and we're not going to play the right-left game anymore. That being said, we do need a right and left, and that is part of the esoteric work to understand. We need a far right, we need a far left, because on the tree of life, it's part of what holds creation in place. So the power of, all right. Okay. The power of the goddess effectively to access the heart and to communicate honestly and transparently, to allow us to work out our differences. This is so big. Just checking a comment. Well, I'll tell you what. You guys would. The news. I look at the news, all the news. I look at everything, and then I have to. And it actually activates me, because it gives. Whenever we look at polarity, it gives you the impetus to create. It's like an artist will see something, and then instantly, polarity can cause creativity. So sometimes when you look at it, it inspires you. But when you get drowned in it, it's absolutely. I find that everything starts to shut down. So really good observation. I have to go times where I take a long break, and then I go back to it just so I can do this work that I do. But at the same time, I'm well aware that most of humanity is shut down in their higher faculties because of it. Absolutely. So we need to, the power of the goddess is what is going to give us the power to communicate honestly and transparently, to allow us to work out our differences and to balance the masculine and feminine on this planet, the right and the left, so that we have full power and not just the distortion of creative power that we have right now. This degradation of the feminine creative force is our free will, however. And so we each are signing on and allowing this to happen. We have to say, no, I'm not going to subscribe to that. I'm not going to demonize everything out there, because I can't see everything clearly, but I'm going to step away and remember that that there's a deeper place within me. It's called intuition and the core creative power within. And it's not until we do that that we get our free will back. And then our words become a blessing to all beings, because even though they may be polarizing or triggering to some, we're doing it we speak from compassion, and we're inviting people in rather than hating on people and categorizing people as good and bad. So we can choose how we use this power. The goddess does not stop us from living in the lower three chakras, not at all. She allows it until the end of the cycle, which is where we are now. And then the pleroma has to reset itself. We are here. Welcome to 2020, the great year of the great reckoning. 2020 is a year of reckoning. It's judgment in the tarot. It's 20 is judgment. We are right now, Pluto, the planet of judgment, is in Capricorn. We have all these transits happening. We're going to talk about a few of them. This is a year of judgment. It's a reckoning. It's an awakening. It's a year of regeneration. So we are currently at this place. We're at the end of the Kali Yuga. It has been known by mystics, initiates, seers, sages, and adepts that humanity is creating this current scenario. This age is the age of the goddess and the age of the divine feminine for all of us. That the divine feminine is our divine creative power. Now, amidst all of the lies, deception, patriarchal misuse of science, medicine, technology, yes, the patriarchal corporatocracy misuse of science, medicine, technology, the greed, the lust, and the blocking of the feminine science, feminine technology, medicine, and the mother consciousness on this planet, and the cries of the children of humanity, the cries of the children that are less fortunate and that have born into a situation where they need their big brothers and sisters to be wise and to look out for them, are not able to count on us right now. It's a complete failure. What we're seeing all around the world, and especially right now, it's happening during this pandemic with children going hungry basically everywhere because of what's happened. The feminine energy within those who are connected to their monadic mother core consciousness code is activating in a very big way. Right on. Keep your truth flowing. So I'll say that again. The feminine energy within those who are connected to their monadic consciousness, we mentioned that, which is really our mother consciousness, are activating in a very big way. We're here. We're mother, and we're ready to speak up, and we're ready to speak up with authority and divine love and inclusivity and balance and reason. We know it's not going to be perfect, but we're here and we're not turning around. Changes in the coming months and years. There's going to be a reckoning for humanity, and this is just the way it is. We're reckoning the state. And we're reckoning our past choices and our past uses of everything from sexuality to science to the planet to how we've treated each other. We're going to be looking face to face at our lessons, what we've created, and we're going to be seeing them in the mirror and seeing how we can reconcile and how we can use those mistakes as creative power to move forward. Yeah, I know. We're still feeling the ouch. Good comment. I think we're all feeling the ouch. And that's why we fail sometimes. That's why even people in these movements and people, I know, I look at my failures in the face. I'll say this summer, I had to sit with myself very, very deeply, because those of us who know we've been working towards this our whole life. I took 2 months of summer. I had the darkest of the dark come up and had to really, really balance that out because this is the time to do that work. And so applaud yourself if you're in that place where you might feel like you've fallen, you're sinking into the dark. We're just making sure that we're clearing things out so that we can hold with the frequency of love. It's not a cliche when we talk about that. Love is the great power, and love is the great reckoning. So it's a powerful time we're in. So This will encourage us. This reckoning is going to encourage us to, things are going to be rough. It's going to encourage us to surrender and to humble ourselves before the power of love and wisdom so that we can unlock the power of equilibrium in the heart. The power of equilibrium is the great, 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 great power. Let me stop here. It's the fall equinox, power of equilibrium. That's why this came through. Equinox represents the power of the heart. We're going from Virgo. I didn't get to do the Virgo new moon video. I have it all written up, and I'm going to share some of that wisdom. We're going from Virgo into Libra. Libra is the reckoning and the balancing in the heart. It's 11, it's justice, and it's the scales. We enter into Libra with this equinox. It's the fall equinox here. It's the spring equinox in the south. One of the most powerful days of the year, and that's why we're talking about this. Our power to balance the right and the left, our power to balance lust and love. These are all the great powers. We have to be able to access the divine wisdom in the center. And so just taking a moment. When we say I am in the 7 directions, we're accessing that wisdom. When I do the mantra I am, where it's to awaken the high priestess in your heart, that you're able to hold the scales and balance the great power. This requires us to be awake and aware of who we are. This isn't handed to us. It's something that we have to work for, meaning we have to show that we're ready to hold that power. But that is where we are right now. And so nice to see you. Oh, it's so nice to see you. Let me know where you guys are tuning in from. Sorry, it's just fun to look down. Okay, so that I wanted to make that connection to the correspondence of Libra and equinox, which is happening tomorrow. That's why I call this the equinox edition. We're talking about the power of equinox. So this and only this is going to lead us into a new era that has been called by some the age of Aquarius. Love will be felt. Art that embodies the goddess will be created. Music to activate the divine music of the spheres and open the Sophionic gates will be written and heard. That which has been called Christ consciousness or Sophionic consciousness, I call it Christ Sophia consciousness. That is what this is. It's the balancing of that in the heart. I'm on the last page, and then we're going to talk a little more fluently. This is the inner marriage of spirit and matter. It's the great alchemy that we talk about, and it's the great alchemy of the heart that we talk about on the Art of the Feminine podcast a lot. It creates the alchemical container for us to hold the body of light consciousness, and it's our vehicle. This is our pure vehicle of consciousness. This is not woo-woo. This is what we are. This is the intelligence of the divine embodied in physical form and active. And so I'm going to take a moment. All right. Let me see. I have one more note, and then I'm going to look and see if there's questions. Okay, now we're going to look at how we can begin to remember to access this power. We're going to look at the current state of planet Earth, the pandemic, and all of the things we mentioned, the cycles of chaos activating our core coding. We'll look at transits. Okay, all right. Does anybody want to say anything? Does anyone want to throw anything out there? And I'm here. I'll take a check. I'll take a peek down. Okay, so. Oh, I hope I can just ask to be given the right words to talk about these things, because these are things that are very serious, but they're also things that demand that we have reason and feminine wisdom and feminine science. In fact, there's a book. Oh my God, I'm gonna go grab it. I was shown a book. I'm actually gonna go get it. 1 second. Oh, nice to see you. 1 sec. All right. Okay, this book. Okay, so I saw this. Marianne Williamson shared this book. And even though I've been in disagreement with her, she's a huge spiritual teacher. I've been in disagreement with her about many things recently, and I value her and love her dearly. She shared this book on her Instagram, and it was Witches, Midwives, and Nurses. Witches, Midwives, and Nurses. And I got it. I ordered it immediately. And it's the history of women healers, but you could also say it's the history of feminine healers. Someone did their thesis on this, and it talks about how healing and medicine and science, it doesn't quite go into science, but I'm saying science, was taken out of the realm of the feminine and really seized upon by the church, by the elite, by the ruling elite, by by the money power. So back then it was, the corporations, by all of it, who kind of took hold of that and made it an industry, and slowly but surely wiped out, annihilated from our consciousness the idea of the feminine science and feminine healing. Now that's coming back, but it's coming back in a very controlled way, meaning this very much has to go along with the narrative. So that's one of the things we're going to talk about. I just wanted to mention this book because it really just talks about the idea of how we bow to our almighty Western medicine, which is very, very valuable, and the God, our science God, and our AI gods, and all of these things that are basically constantly thrown in our face and shamed. What you mean? You don't believe in science? You don't believe? Oh, you're one of those. You're an anti this or an anti that. That's shaming. And you know what? When people are shamed, what happens when you shame a child? Let's just go into this right now. I'm going to talk about this from the Divine Mother, from the view of the Divine Mother. And I'm like feeling her force right now. What happens when you shame a child? Any of us who've been parents know what happens when we shame a child. They shut down. They go angry inward. They stop asking questions. They stop making observations. They stop tuning into their creative imagination, where they're able to dream and access the whole realm of creative power, and they get angry. A lot of children who are shut down and shamed when they're young for playing, for having a creative imagination, for questioning their parents, for questioning reality, grow up to have serious addictions. They shut down because all that creative innocence that is going into the world feels like it will not be accepted or loved if it continues to not conform. So what happens is they stop communicating exactly. Oh, brilliant. Exactly. They stop communicating. And that's what this podcast is. That's what we want to talk about, is communication. So what happens is that you get a lot of angry, conformative people. Is that a word? Who are afraid to speak up. So this has been happening for a long time now. And so then what happens is anyone who speaks up or has a different opinion is called a conspiracy theorist. How convenient. Anything that is opposite the narrative is conspiracy. So the conspiracy theory and so-called conspiracy theorists can get really dark, and kind of, that those movements do tend to attract, this is very important, a huge population of people who are wounded, who feel disenfranchised and cut off, who feel like they haven't been heard, who feel like they haven't had a place to express their own ideas or make legitimate observations about what they're seeing and experiencing. So what happens is all that pent-up energy is looking for a place to belong. And so what happens? That can be played with in a very, very big way. And that's what happens. Movements are actually engineered and created to harness all of that energy, all of that lost, broken down inner child within us that are looking for a place where we can say, yeah, this person is speaking up for me. They've got my back. They know the truth, and they're going to go out and get back and get revenge on all those people that blocked us. Because think about it, that's how we create criminals, people who feel like they didn't have a voice. I've read quite a few studies about people who, it's very interesting what leads people to acting out to harm other people. Oftentimes it's rooted in the childhood and not feeling fully expressed. So So what I want, this is one of the movements I want to talk about. So we'll start with the conspiracy movement. So I saw, this was one of the reasons Marianne Williamson wrote an article and it was in Newsweek. I didn't read the whole thing because I started to read it and I was upset by it because and there's a lot of people in the yoga movements and spiritual movements now speaking out because they are, oh, I'm going to read this comment really quick. Okay. Oh, yes, beautiful. And I love that. I work with almost, I'd say 80% of my clients are psychologists and psychotherapists. So so that realm, and they're mostly women. So what's happening is, and I'm not saying it can't happen with men, a lot of the feminine sleepers inside the medical industry, the psychology industry, science are very in tune. That's the good news. I have clients all over the world in high places, and I'll tell you, pretty much straight across the board, people recognize what's happening. People are not stupid. People are awake. So, thank you for that comment. So, okay. Oh yeah, I'm going to talk about cuties. Thank you, Myra. All right. So, what happens is that, okay. Oh, I thought there was a bit of righteousness in writing that article and a bit of ignorance, not understanding from, let's call it the ACIM kind of way, where people are coming from. So I saw, and there's some big yoga teachers writing these things and about how everybody who's following, I'm not even going to name the movements, huge movements right now that are considered to be far right. And I'm very aware of these movements and I've followed them from the beginning. They're right in front of me. And I check in with these things so I understand the voice of every side, because what is important is that we don't have a balance. We need to understand the voice here and here. We need each other. Believe it or not, this so-called conspiracy side has a lot of information that these people need. And these people have a lot of whatever it is that these people need. We need to come together. So we'll break down the right and the left. So what's happening is I do recognize that some of these things are being steered in a direction that could be very dangerous. And it's important to recognize this. I just watched Joe Rogan interview Edward Snowden. I watched the whole 2.5-hour interview. I set up my yoga mat. My son was laughing at this, and I put the 2.5-hour Joe Rogan interview with Edward Snowden next to me. I did yoga for 2.5 hours listening to their interview. It was brilliant. It was so good. And I want to make this point. I went to share that video on YouTube and I got a notification that said if I shared it, that I would be penalized. No, not to share it on YouTube. I went to share it on Facebook. This was probably one of the most decent, reasonable conversations I had heard, talking about our ability to harness information in this day and age and how it's affecting people. And also Joe Rogan brought up about how in this conspiracy movement, the reason, and I hate to even use that word, but that's what it's being called everywhere, why these people are disenfranchised. They're cut off. They're angry. They've been cheated by the system. They're the people they're the misfits. They're the class that's not considered elite. They're people, but there's also a lot, I will say, I know this, a lot of intellectuals and elite there too. On some level, it's being taken advantage of because it takes those who are very upset and angry and can steer them. But on another hand, these people have not been given a fair voice. The voice is usually run through a particular narrative, and it's not the whole truth. There is a problem in our media. I blame the media. I read the New York Times cover to cover every day. I have ever since I've moved to New York in 1998. I've been reading it nonstop. I also watch every other news outlet and I compare, and then I look at what's really happening and I talk to people on the ground in every different country. I can say that what is reported is so biased and so non-goddess level communication. What we are being fed. So if you subscribe to this stream, you're getting a constant hit, nonstop. I know what that hit is. If you subscribe to this stream, you're getting a constant hit. Those streams, there are people within them trying to speak out that hold a lot of truth. But it's an engineered game. This is the point of the goddess report. My saying was not the right, not the left, not the right wing, not the left wing of politics, both wings. The wings of the goddess. That's why the goddess is represented by the wings of Isis. That's what it means, that we have the whole tree of life activated in our field. And that's what we need. And I'm so tired of the games that are going on right now. And I think most of us are. But we have to, it's going to take some work to come together and to break down barriers. There's a lot of healing to be done. And right now the game is being played out to the end, right against left. We'll talk a little bit more about that. My whole point on that, talking about conspiracy theorists, was that it's ignorant to turn that voice out and to say that that's the dark realm of human consciousness, because there's a reason it's happening. And if we don't address the reason, there are many things that are being reported there that you will not see in the news that are absolutely open source accurate. They're not their absolute accuracy, but it's not reported. If you have wisdom and intelligence, you can look at things and see through them and say, why is this being covered this way from this angle? Why aren't we looking at both sides? It's the reason that our current president has such a huge legitimate force behind him. And I know things are off right now, and I'm not enforcing him one way or the other, endorsing him one way or the other, but it's because the media is off. And he knows that, and he can use that in a very big way, because anybody who pays attention to it knows it is. And so it meant people are like, he's right. They're legit, that he's legitimate about that, and we're not being heard. So I need to take a deep breath and go into a different place to talk about the next things. But this is important, and we can solve it within us. When we stop subscribing to that fight, truth will be change. Yes, it strengthens deviancy. Somebody said the suppression of voices and individual thought is strengthening the narrative of deviancy. Absolutely. That's where it's coming from. When you bottle something up, when you pent something up, it's going to erupt as something that is oftentimes off balance. But when we're seeing that with the racial unrest as well, we're seeing the centuries of racism, and all of this is coming to a head. And even though some of that is absolutely it's all being used against us right now, all of it. But the goodness is coming through. So the next thing we're going to look at is, the reason I'm saying all that is because it's not to endorse this or that, but it's to understand that right now, our patriarchal corporate science is being used against us, and it is being used against us so that we're told not to ask questions, just one moment, not to question anything. But I just want to say this. I know this because I throughout my lifetime, the goddess herself has placed me, spirit, in certain circles to get to know people and to have conversations with people that are very plugged in and very connected on every level. Science, medicine, politics, government, all of it. And this is a game of money, that we live in a game of money, and we can buy science, we can buy technology, we can buy medicine, meaning there is a gatekeeper to what is the final outcome, what is revealed. And the gatekeeper is the almighty dollar, money and power. It's money and power. I'm going to read a quote that I found, and unfortunately, I didn't write down who this is from. I have it in quotations. I'm going to Google it afterwards. It might have been said on that Joe Rogan podcast. Humankind has been at war at every place, at every time, and they've been horrible in war to each other, burning down villages, raping women, torturing people, killing people. That's actually normal for the human animal. So it's called the psychology of power. So I wanted to bring that in because it just touches on the fact that we're human animals. And so when we're operating only from our animal side, war and money are dominant. That being said, the goddess bows to science. I bow to science. I want to say that, shout it from the rooftop for all those people who are screaming science constantly. I'm going to read this comment. Absolutely, absolutely, and it's true, and then they get psyoped, and they become out of control. There's a lot of things being planted in. I know a lot of things that I can't get into in this video, but I might later, about how they're being used right now. This is what I want to say about science. The goddess governs science. She's all about science. She's all about science. The scientific mind is the absolute creative force of the goddess discovering matter. It's the feminine side. So that I call the male lineages oftentimes are like, oh, creation doesn't exist. It's all Maya. It's all illusion. It's all desire, the desire force. Well, that's true. But when we come into creation, we want to understand it. Science, education, intellectualism, poetry are all hugely valuable to us. But feminine science, we are not including the voices of some of our most powerful thinkers. This is why media has lost credibility, and science can be said to be losing credibility. When the narrative is bought and paid for, if you don't fit that, you are ousted. And so you're kicked out, you're ruined. And that's what's happening constantly, all the time, every day. There's thousands of people that come forward about that. And many people that I work with that are on the inside are very, very candid about that's the way it is. And so you have to walk a fine line. And so it's time for us to understand that, yes, we want open source transparency of science, of technology. Now, granted, not everybody is capable of working in the highest levels of decision making. I mean, that's why we grow up. That's why we evolve. So it's meant to be, there's different tiers as we gain more wisdom and power, and as we study and learn and prove ourselves. It's called initiation in the esoteric work. We are given higher and higher access to be able to be part of the decision-making process. So I'm not against, I just want to say, like a hierarchical system of wisdom. Because even in the divine feminine, the goddesses, the grandmothers hold the wisdom, and but there's a connection to all different levels. So I'm not saying that we should throw everything out as is, but we need to heal. We need to bring in the feminine, like this book that Marianne Williamson recommended, Witches, Midwives, and Nurses. We need to go back to allowing some of that to come in, because what's happening right now, and I have no idea how long I've been going, but I have more to say, is that what's the bigger picture has to do with technology and the complete technological control that's coming onto this planet very, very fast. It's happening very, very fast. Beyond what we're seeing in politics is, oh, thank you. That's so sweet. Yeah, like the video. That helps a lot. And subscribe. I'm going to be back. I promise you, I'm back now. But right now, technology, what I wish these people were talking about, these women and these yogis and these spiritual teachers, I wish that they were going beyond and looking at technology and what's happening with technology. And that brings me to what Myra commented on the movie, on the Netflix film Cuties. So we're going to go into the sexual degeneration. I'm just going to go into that a little bit. So because I talk a lot about that, I'm going to be talking a lot more about that. So I have not seen it, but there is a show running called Cuties, and apparently on Netflix, it sexualizes young girls between the ages of 9 to 11. I read, and I haven't fact checked all of this, but I read that they were trained by watching pornography. They're dancers. I haven't seen it. I'm going to see it. It was like I had to take a break from all of this. And I'm so aware of so many more things like this, but this is being pushed now into mainstream. This is no surprise at all. It's no surprise, but you've seen it. Okay. And you recommend it for parents. Good. Yeah. I think it's good to be aware. Now, what I want to say about when it comes to sex and sexuality is that, and I've done many a podcast on sexuality and the human appetite of sex. It's very, very powerful, and we're meant to be able to explore it. And there's a different sexuality for every single human being on this planet. But there's meant to be the fringes, and there's meant to be the alternative and the experimental realms. And then at the core of it, there is meant to be some wisdom that honors high levels of wisdom, where we understand the psyche of a child as a person. And I work with therapists every single day as a person myself who has done mentoring for 15 years now. It's not cute. Yeah. Is I can say that almost the most profound thing I've heard over and over and over and over, having real conversations with adult men and adult women, were sexual experiences that they came into at too young of an age that left an imprint on them that they've been dealing with their entire lives. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. And if our psychology, our psychology is supposed to serve us and look into that on a deep level and report truthfully that children who are violated at a young age, children that are that are exposed to that subconscious opening that occurs when we come into sex, that exchange of power. This is about, as that quote said, this is about power. When they're exposed to it too young, it wreaks havoc on the developmental process. Now, kids sign on to things very easily, though. I remember I was a dancer my entire life, so I remember dancing and feeling. We have those urges within us from a very young age, and we're meant to have wisdom that guides us. And so, right now, we'll do a whole video on this. Let me see how I want to sum this up for now. That is part of the breakdown. That is part of the agenda of keeping humanity in the lower three chakras, sexualizing everyone, everywhere, making there be no boundaries, having everything just be a big sex fest. That, I'm sorry, is the lower three chakras. As we awaken, and everybody can be where they're at. I don't claim to know what is right for everyone, but I do know that as we have experience, that I do know that those behaviors do lead to addiction and pain. Eventually we hit the wall. So we might have to go down that path until we realize that we're ready to just experiment with love and wisdom and combining those forces, that triple force, sexuality and love and wisdom. And that's when the true power comes into our world. And that's where we call that marriage of spirit and matter happens. Right now, they become dissociated. Very good comment. Nice comment. The damaged chakras become blocked and dissociated. Absolutely. That's when we get control. And when they're addicted, we're dissociated from the higher ones and dissociated from true love and forget what true nurturing is. When you're really damaged, you don't even recognize true nurturing. True nurturing will feel like an assault or a threat. That's what happens when we're broken down. Those things that have a vibration of love are no longer attractive to us. We want to swim in the underworld. I know this very well. It's like my life has taken me into many realms where I speak of these things from firsthand experience, and I've been blessed to be able to see what's really going on in this world, so that I can speak from a very real place. So that's the entire purpose of this program. Yeah, and it's to program children. Children are being sexualized at a young age because also once you connect to that low level, like sexuality, you shut down the higher level. I mean, sex is so powerful. You open the subconscious realm. In fact, a lot of mind control is done through sexuality because it opens the subconscious and makes us very open to be downloaded with an ideology that then we play out into the field. I'm going to see if there's, we need an open conversation. And the fact that we're not having it just shows the state of the world. This is the state of our world that, you're demonized for you're called like ultra religious or ultra this or ultra that. This is about wisdom. And we need to, we're actually going to hit a place where people are crying for wisdom. And that's yeah, exactly. That is the purpose of this reckoning that's happening. It's breaking everyone down to where people are hungry for truth. It's sometimes we have to hit the bottom until we're hungry for truth. And once we hit that place, there's going to be fountains of wisdom that suit everyone's individual needs. So let's see what else I wanted to say. I want to talk about the demonizing gurus. I saw a very well-known teacher that I don't follow personally. I'm not going to say his name, but he was basically saying that all male patriarchal guru, he's very big, and all male lineage gurus are bad. None of them are truly spiritual. They all rob us of our emotional body energy and our power to experience the ego in the world. I agree. I mentioned that a lot because I often talk about what I call the male lineages. However, demonizing them is not the way to go. There is truth. Those gurus, yes, yeah. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. There's those gurus. I've also, oh my God, it's embarrassing how much time I've spent with all of these things. I've followed a couple, a few living teachers very, very closely, and the teachings are beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. Do I see that they're somewhat removed from some of the topics I address? Absolutely. Have I gone my realms with being so upset, so angry, feeling like the feminine's cut off? And oh my God, I can't tell you my history with like loving them, hating them, loving them, hating them. And I had to go through that myself to wake up, because I can't serve in this seat unless I understand that they're our partners. And it's not they, it's we. We need the masculine stream of the inner and the higher realm that transcends. We hear about bypassing the heart and just awakening in the mind. And that is very much what's happening in certain places, where the heart is where we do the real alchemy. And that's what the divine feminine is, meaning the heart is where we work out our relationships. The heart is where we work out sex. The heart is where we work out materialism. The heart is, and that's why so many millennials right now are called to be entrepreneurs. And so many of the women I work with have such a different launching platform than I had, because I couldn't have been less interested in all of that. But their generation is coming in to understand money, to understand materialism, to understand beauty. And so a lot of the young girls now are playing with that. And sometimes I look at it and it's not in perhaps the vibration that I think it will be at some point, but that exploration of it is necessary, because the feminine was cut off from power and money and creativity for so long. That's why the feminine side of all of us ended up completely dominated. And that's why we got a patriarchal society. So now we're playing with how to bring this back into balance. So we need the right, we need the left, we need the male gurus, we need the feminine, we need both. And so I recommend, rather than demonizing anyone, say, this is what I've discovered, and this is what I want to say, what I've learned for myself. The most powerful thing I've learned: whatever you hate usually has the biggest message for you. Whatever you think is so wrong is usually where you're going to get the wisdom you need. Whoever you think is on the opposite side of you usually has the one piece of information that you need in order to complete your picture of reality. It's a falsehood to think that we have to just push away, because we have the answers for each other. The right has the answer for the left, and the left has the answer for the right. What we're working to overcome is we're all in this together. The technology that's happening right now is going to govern everybody, not just the right or not just the left. The things that are being rushed in right now are very, very big. We'll be talking about that as we go. I will say that some of the so-called conspiracy movements, though, that I've noticed are definitely avoiding big topics. They're definitely, I won't go into all of them, but they're definitely avoiding things that legitimately should be included. So I think that everything is being engineered right now. But I do think that that it's necessary to have these to beam the voice in. And I think it's only responsible for real spiritual teachers to say, why does that exist? Whose voices are repressed so that is possible, instead of being self-righteous and some of the things I've seen, just not good. So, all right. What do you despise? By this you are known. Oh, that's a good one. Frank Herbert, what do you despise? By this you are known. That is brilliant. Thank you for sharing that, Myra. Okay. All right. A couple more things. Yeah. Let's honor science, but let's bring in a consensus that we have, that people who have a different opinion aren't being fired. You know what I mean? Let's look at all of it, and that's happening for a fact. It's funny. I talked to my son the other day, and I was like, this is what I'm noticing. I'm on social media. On one platform, I have 100,000 people. I see so many people coming in all the time. Like, people post what they have for lunch. People post what they have for dinner. People post what their kids are doing. People post when they're sick. People post, where they're going, what they bought. I'm like, it's so odd that there's some things that you would expect to be seeing right now. I'm not even you can fill in the blank, that we are not seeing. It just doesn't make sense in the past 6 months. Why, if everybody posts their traumas, their dramas, their pain, their grief, I haven't seen any of certain posts that I would think that I'd be seeing a lot of. It doesn't make sense. That being said, he looked at me and he's like, Mom, I love this kid. He's 15. He's so sensible. He's so practical. He's a Capricorn. He's like, Mom, everyone I know is talking about that. And I was shocked. I said, really? I said, kids are talking about this? He said, Mom, that's all everybody talks about. And I said, you mean kids are aware that the state of the world and what's happening right now just doesn't seem to add up? He said, absolutely. He's like, we sit around and talk about it all the time. And these kids are not conspiracy theorists. They're kids. And guess what? Kids are less invested in their ego. And when they talk to each other, they talk truth. Kids are by nature closer to their intuition, and their vision is clearer. We need to listen to the children. And that being said, I am just asking you to have a deep understanding of where your ideas come from. Are they being told to you from the outside? Are you being kind to your inner child? Are you being kind to your intuition? Are you cultivating your intuition? Are you afraid? This is what I want to leave you with. Are you afraid to ask questions? Are you afraid that you will be shamed if you point out what you see? If that is the answer, then we have a false parent in charge. The false parent will shame the child for asking the question. If we feel like we would be shamed if we speak what we're really thinking, there's a problem. There's a problem. Because that means the power of the word is not open. Okay, I'm going to run through a few archetypal transits and then probably have to close out. So here's the archetypal influences that we're under. They're huge. They are huge right now. Uranus and Taurus. Uranus and Taurus is going to rock this planet. Uranus entered Taurus last year. There was a 7-year cycle that led to 2012. Uranus is in Taurus for 7 years. Uranus is revolution. Uranus is rocking the earth. When Uranus touches earth, everything changes. Everything dismantles. We're in a Uranus cycle. We're 1 year in. Are we 1 year in? I'm sorry, I don't have the dates, but we have 6 years to go. It's going to be big. Uranus and Taurus. Right now, we also have the North Node in Gemini. Information is being created because the North Node governs our true north and where the energies, the powers are. The powers in Gemini are the power to disseminate information and the power to synthesize the conscious mind with the subconscious mind. That's that synthesis that happens in the heart. Gemini is the lovers. There's a huge, and it's ruled by Mercury, who also governs technology. So technology is being used to disseminate information, and Mercury rules the mind, to control the mind. This is an age where information, this was known early on in the last century, the power of this, the power of technology, the power of sound to influence the human psyche and to galvanize and get the psyche to move and act and become activated. Right now, this North Node in Gemini will be here for, I think, another year and a half. Information is highlighted, the mind is highlighted, technology is highlighted, the use of information. The way we take that into our own sovereignty is to synthesize our conscious mind and our subconscious mind in the heart. That is how we project our own image. I call it the divine image into the field. This is what the whole Divine Feminine Astrology is about. We're going to be doing more videos that talk about this. You have to project your own image, not let the image be given to you. That is, all the great mystics have said that. When you're projecting the image that is radiating from your core, from your nucleus, from your deep, deep essence as a soul, you will be living in the field of your own archetypal blueprint. It's your own soul's blueprint. We all have a different one. Everyone's world is meant to be their own creation and is different, but it's meant to be our own world. So that being said, we also have, Pluto and Capricorn. Saturn is retrograde in Capricorn. I want to talk about the Mars retrograde too. Pluto and Saturn and Capricorn. Jupiter's there right now too. Huge things happening right now. Huge. I mean, the whole Capricorn governs our patriarchal systems. It's just completely, we're in for it. With this election, we are in the US, we are in for it. And we're going to be navigating through the whole thing. It's going to be interesting. Mars is retrograde in Aries. So what we need to know about that is that Mars is the ruler of Aries. Aries is the other sign of the patriarchy. Aries squares Capricorn. And so Mars retrograde now, I think it's at 27 right now. It's stationed retrograde at 28 degrees. It's going to go all the way back in Aries. It's going to square Saturn, square Pluto, I believe, and square Jupiter. This is an era. It's going to conjunct Eris again. This is huge time of energy. Up until the election in the US, we are under some of the most intense, eruptive astrological, archetypal influences that we've been under. Anything could happen. Anything could happen right now with Mars and with Uranus and Taurus and with the North Node in Gemini. This is what I want to say about all of it. We signed up for this. Life goes on. Has gone on in every revolution, in every world war. Life goes on. Art is created. Lovers come together. Music is created. Families come together. Children are born. Marriages happen. Culture, the goddess goes on. So don't feel yourself a victim. This should be a time to explode in your heart. This is a time to express yourself and to listen. The listening opens the gift of Taurus. Uranus is in Taurus, blasting the earth right now. So with higher energy, if you want to take hold of that energy, listen. Taurus is the archetype of the Hierophant, intuition and inner listening. We only can access the divine when we listen. We can only access each other when we listen. Listening is more powerful than speaking. To hear, H-E-A-R, is to be in the heart, H-E-A-R-T. To hear, ear, is the heart and is to hear. So I could go on. There's many more words that come into that. Listen before you attack. Come together. When we come together, oh, so good to see you. When we come together, we have a huge power. Right and left, the big secret is that they're not really opposite each other. Come together. Make it a point to listen to someone you disagree with. And that's how you're going to find out what the real fight is. The real fight is not right against left right now. It's bigger than that. It's much bigger. This is the great end times. It really is. I mean, it's the end of this cycle. So this is a time when the dark side is pulling a fast one on us, pulling a fast one on everyone. And it's fooling even some wise teachers. So when we come together, we win. It's a win-win. I think I'm going to close out now. It's so good to see everybody. So good to see everybody. Yes, please subscribe to the channel. It will help this channel. I haven't been doing a lot of videos, so I want to keep it active. Would love to hear your comments, and I will go back and read all the comments. Comments help too. Subscribe and like the video. When you like the video, it also helps. It's a long video, so it's going to be a little slow going anyway. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you all and hearing from you again. Also, Art of the Feminine on Instagram and Facebook. I'm active on both, and I'm going to be doing more live streams on Facebook. So, that being said, I'm going to close with I Am in the 7 directions for those who would like to do it with me. It's a mantra, and it opens your heart center and it activates your light body in your field. And so, repeating after me, I am before me. I am behind me. I am at my left. I am at my right. I am above me. I am below me. I am unto me. And then you take a deep, deep breath in, hold it. Think about what you want to create while you're suspending your breath. Think about your intention for what you want to birth in the world. And then exhale it all out. And we activate the divine, the spiritual, and the physical with I am, I am. I know I am. I am, I am. I know I am. I know I am. And so, that being said, I will see you guys next time. Oh, I have more to say, but I'll be back soon. All right.